Hi there. Welcome back to Proud to Be of Rust and Glass, the podcast. This is Curtis Dieter, your host and producer. In 2023, we dove into the Northwest Ohio creative scene, talking with artists, poets, writers, musicians, and rappers about what it means to make great art in this region. We're excited to kick off 2024 by moving into the realm of film. Today, we have a great conversation with Brian Ustaszewski, who is a local filmmaker, sound artist, and family man. Brian, great to have you on the show, man. We appreciate you stopping in to take some time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here, Curtis.
So let's just jump right in. You know, a lot of times when people hear about film, they think coastal, they think Hollywood. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a filmmaker in the Toledo area?
Being in the Toledo area is, it has its challenges and it has its opportunities all at the same time. I believe being, a filmmaker here, you can have opportunities you can't have out in California or anywhere else out west, because we have areas that can be seen by the world that has architecture that isn't like out there, that has, we have all our public parks and all those that you can film in, and they're amazing areas. And they're, how do I explain it? It's like, it's magical here. I have to say it because we have all four seasons. So you can see fall, spring, you can't see those out there. Usually Southern California is just...
You don't have to have artificial snow and...
Yeah, we can actually go out and film the snow, even though, the cold makes batteries go lower faster, it's just, you're out there like freezing cold hands. But once the art's done, it's great.
What have been some of your favorite places in the area that you've been able to shoot at?
Actually, I did help shoot one film. It was over in the South End, right where the Martin Luther King train station is. Mm-hmm. They have that walk pass. And I actually shot a whole segment of a film right there on that train pass. And it's like, it was interesting to do because you got the highway there and you have the trains going underneath. So, we had to collect the sound in a certain way where like you didn't get all those. And I had to go back in and fake it afterwards. So it was challenging, but it was a great, being able to use that scenery, because I even we did a wide shot of like the background there, and it was just like, I don't know, it was a really proud moment, like you can show off something that's been there for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and there's a lot happening there too. I mean, that's a really cool area to just sort of soak in, and I've seen a lot of amazing photography from there too, and just the ingenuity and the engineering of some of the stuff that was built, here in Toledo that's still solid, still being used.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. So you mentioned, it has a lot of perks as far as these great locations, these opportunities. You did say that there were some challenges though. What challenges have you had over the years?
Some of the challenges with it is being able to do permits and stuff like that, being able to like have possibilities of like maybe closing down a street for a certain scene. And so you'd have to do it like they say in the industry, a guerrilla style shooting. You just have to kind of go in there and get your shots and get out. But with, with Film Toledo coming around, and they're actually officiated now by the city of Toledo, you have that possibility of being able to get these permits now. But when I did that film, there wasn't that at the time.
Right. Do you have any run-ins with authorities?
Actually, no. But if you do, you just be polite and tell them what you're doing. And, we got cameras and, lighting equipment. And usually people tend not to bother you. Or they just come up and they're like, "Are you guys making a movie?" You're like, "Actually, yeah." And, they'll just watch off to the side, and they'll be pretty polite about it.
And if they're still not happy with it, you just play dumb in the end, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be doing this.
They're like,
There's always that too. So how did you first get into filmmaking and into video?
I've always had an interest in it because, growing up in some of the greatest action movies ever, but how I really got started into it, because I want to learn how to write for myself, and do script writing. Mm-hmm. So I looked around the city and the area, and I was like, all right, who can I get to learn how to do this better other than just learning from YouTube or something, I was like, okay, I found Glass City Screenwriters. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to one of these meetings. And then I met up with Virginia Shine. That's her name. She's the one who runs that. And I met up with her, and Michael DeSanto was there. And I just started creating a great relationship with her over there. Really learned how to really script and write, and we would read each other's scripts. And we're just, it's a really good community there.
Do you do all parts of the process, from the writing to the shooting to the editing and all that stuff? Are you pretty hands-on with every single stage of what you're creating?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that. And if I don't have like the perfect aspect of doing it, I can reach out to somebody else that's here and be like, hey, what would you do in this instance, or et cetera, et cetera. But mostly, yeah, I'm hands-on with everything.
Okay. What part of the process is your favorite part?
I believe I like the idea process, into pre-production. You can come into and you have an idea and you can flesh it out and turn it into a full story. And then, yeah, that and on set are probably some of my favorite, because, they all have their challenges, but both of those are probably my favorite. I'd have to say I can't pick just one because I like all the process of it, but I'd have to say either one of those.
Cool. Yeah, it's very important to enjoy the process. I think a lot of people see only finished products, and they think that finished product is what we do it for. And a lot of times you get to that finished product and you feel a little bit empty almost. But if you really, really grasp the idea of enjoying the process to get there, I think that's incredibly important as a creator, especially when maybe it's not, the end point is not as rewarding as people think it might be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's not. You get this whole, how would you say that? You work on this whole thing and you're like, hey, this great idea has come apart, and then everybody gets to see it and they're like, wow, good job. And you're like, yeah.
What can I do next?
Yeah, and everybody's like, what's your next project? And you're like, I got like 10. I don't know which ones to start on here.
You mentioned the early action movies that you grew up with. Do you have any particular films that were sort of your biggest influences, or your favorite things you keep coming back to over and over again?
Probably my favorite action movie would have to be Conan the Barbarian. I don't care what anybody says.
I love it.
That movie is amazing. I still watch it this day. I watched it a lot with my dad growing up, and I was just like, this is what makes me want to do film here. Watching Arnold swing a big sword, it was pretty sweet.
I love it. Any non-action movies that you think sort of resonate with your work today?
I would have to say probably Stanley Kubrick's 2001.
Okay.
I really, 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 really love that movie. It's very well shot. He was a photographer before he was a cinematographer, by the way, if you didn't know that. That's how he had his framing done so well, is because he had everything center line framed. It's really interesting once you start diving into like some of them classic filmmakers, and you just watch how they build those things, and you're like, dude, and that's where I channel my end. I'm like, wow, dude, that's so awesome. I can use that, and I can see why he did that like that, and why he framed that shot like that, and it helps build into that.
From what little I know of Kubrick, it sounds like he was a perfectionist almost to a point of driving some of his actors and his producers and things kind of crazy. But
yeah.
I mean, you see the incredible movies that he's made. So
yeah, like right when he does that, if anybody, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but at the end where he's going through the time warp thing at the end, they literally took like oil-based paint and stuck it on film and ran it through a light. And they were just dropping this highly toxic paint. And it was just flying through it, and like when you see all them yellow colors and all this other stuff, he actually hand did that while the reel was moving. So like that was real art, yeah.
I always, with the special effects and some of the soundboarding stuff from older movies, I'm always just amazed to see how they did that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Like in Star Wars, they literally hand painted all those stormtroopers when Vader was coming off. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that. I was like, wow. And
you see that picture of George Lucas by the table with all of his miniatures of all the ships and the planets.
Yeah, and you're like, wow. So when you go miniature, you got to go large scale on all your models. I was like, oh boy, I don't ever want to shoot them a small scale. I was like, I don't have a warehouse for this.
Right. Over the years, how old were you, do you think, when you first did your first film? About pretty young, or
no, actually I waited a little bit. It was after I had my kids. It was about 2000. Honestly, I let's see. The first one I really helped on was like 2020,
Okay.
around there. So, I waited a little bit, perfected what I did. I more started in audio than with the video section,
Okay.
So I was kind of doing my own thing with them, then took some time off with family stuff, and then I was like, you know what, I'm doing film. I don't care. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it.
I love it. Even though it hasn't been too long, has your process changed or evolved at all as you've sort of figured things out?
Yeah, a whole lot, because when you first go out there, you're a little green, and you're like, how am I going to do this? What do I do? And what are all these different jobs? And what are all these different positions? And when you're an independent filmmaker, you literally have to wear like 10,000 hats. Mm-hmm. You have to, because you have to know how audio works. You have to know how lighting works. You have to know how to do blocking. You have to know how to do, and you learn these over time, and, how fast you can absorb it or what you actually like either helps you build it that much faster.
Right. That's very true. And I think you mentioned, I think it's important for people to also know that we all start out having no idea what we're doing, right? And we kind of learn as we go. We pick up new skills. We get better and better at it. And it's a process to get from a starting point to get somewhere where we can actually produce something worth consuming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned you're a family man. You mentioned your kids a couple times. You work at Jeep, and you're also doing your creative thing. It's a lot. It's a lot to balance. How do you get through that? How do you make things work?
Balance. That's the key word to this, balance, because sometimes as being a creative, you can get hyper creative. Mm-hmm. And a thing I can do, like I'll work all the way up onto one of my projects. Let's say if I have to go to work, I work second shift. So I'll go to 4:30 working on my projects and just go straight to work afterwards. And then I'll come home and still work on it because I get home really late at night. And then I'll just keep working on it. And then I'll forget, like, oh yeah, I didn't take out the trash. Oops. Now I got to take it out at 6:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So
it's always the little chores that get forgotten about.
And they just, sometimes they accumulate, so you have to stay on top of it and be able to balance your time between everything you do, between kids and back and forth to school or doctor's appointments or whatever else, and you have to take time to set time aside to do these things. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then hope that you have a partner who is willing to give you grace when you forget to take out the trash, or
and I do
when the dishes pile up a little bit, or,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's hard with kids, especially. I mean, that's a huge part of how I define myself as a husband and a father, and I know you do too. There are a lot of times where we have to do creative work, and it sort of impedes on our dad time. Are you able to still keep enough dad time and be there for the big moments and all that stuff, despite working and despite doing what you're doing?
Yes, and anytime there's like major holidays or anything, those are definite do not call me days. Right. I don't do it, especially after a certain time of night either. If I'm not working or I have the day off, please don't call me. It's my time to eat my normal meals with my family and actually sit down and talk to everybody and see how everybody's doing and checking in, and playing Lego time.
Oh yeah. Those are the important moments, and you have to have boundaries. You have to have boundaries around yourself too. I mean, I struggled a long time with when I wasn't writing, when I wasn't doing, the magazine creation, things like that. I would feel guilty. I would feel awful. But now I'm like, I have to put that boundary around myself and put that boundary in saying no to other people too. Yeah. Because there are things that are too important to let slip through.
Yeah, you just can't let it happen, yeah.
Can you tell us about any of your upcoming projects that you're working on?
Most of them are in pre-production right now, but I have most of them already scripted out, and I have some few people casted for them. Awesome. So I've been talking to a couple local actors and stuff around here, and I got a really good location for my next one. It's like a psychological thriller style. It's pretty good, I believe so, and everybody I asked so far, they really like the idea. I can't really go into too much because it's going to be a short film, so I don't want to ruin anything about it. But it kind of takes place in some woods, and it's in a cabin, and some people want to retreat from the daily life, and that's what they want to do to try to get back to their creativity, and then, it all breaks loose.
Okay. Is that sort of the type of stuff you usually work on, or are you kind of all over the place with genre and subject and all that.
Usually, like things I work on, if I'm working with other people, I'm working on their their thing. But when I'm working on my own, it's usually psychological, sometimes horror and stuff. I grew up into that kind of stuff, so I that's the genre I feel most comfortable in. I'm always open to going into different genres as well.
Awesome. Amazing. That's really cool. We have up in Monroe, Michigan, they're actually doing a lot of stuff with horror film and stuff. I don't know if you've ever been able to,
Yep.
to hook up with those guys up there.
Yeah, actually, I know some of them up there, and I'm actually going to be filming up there.
Awesome.
Because my friend's cabin is up there. So I was just like, I have to come and film at this. And he showed me some pictures, and it was just like, he's like, yeah, the River Raisin's right there. And I was like, oh man, this is picturesque for this.
There's a lot of really cool locations in Michigan. It reminds me of one of the first times before I married my wife. One of the first times we went and did something together.
Yeah.
We drove up to Lewiston, Michigan, which is about 4 hours north.
Okay.
And by the time we got up into the boonies, it was dark. So it was just dark, looming trees, winding roads, and I can just imagine, pretty early on in dating, I can imagine her what was going on through her head as we were driving through these woods in the middle of nowhere, Michigan. But it would have been a perfect scene for something like that.
Yeah, especially when the fog gets real low, and you're just like, there we go, 6 a.m. We got to be out there.
Yeah, we're shooting now. Let's go, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. You mentioned Film Toledo.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us a little bit more about them and about the sort of blooming film scene here in the area?
Yeah. Well, I know Michael DeSanto was taking a long time to, he was really setting the foundation for Film Toledo to get made, and that's where I met him, and he was still in an early process of that, and he was building onto it, trying to get more people on board, and eventually he started building his board members, and they started getting more people to listen, and then just recently he got, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but downtown, one of the commissioners, like one of those people, and they were like, they listened to the story and they were like, hey, yeah, blah, 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 and they got really onto it, and they were like, they finally listened to the story about what's going on, and they really enjoyed it, so that it got fast-tracked, like, super quick, basically overnight, and they all voted on to make them the official, film commission of this area, and I was just like, wow, that's, like...
Things usually don't move that quickly.
Yeah, I was like, dude, congratulations, I'm happy for you. I believed in you this whole time, and I've been rooting for you ever since, because it's a sense of pride to be a part of that now, because it's official. It's like Cleveland or Cincinnati or Dayton. They all have their own film commissions. We didn't have one, so it's actually a really proud moment now. So we got a lot of great things coming through that too.
That's amazing momentum. I hope they really do big things and play a huge role in showing off the amazing film talent that's in the area.
Yeah.
Every branch of the arts brings something to the community.
Yeah.
We have obviously our art museum. We have a ton of thriving artists. We have writers. What impact do you see a budding film community bringing to Toledo?
Other than bringing in larger, film productions, which there are some coming soon, it shows off our history here, and it shows, our creativity, and there's so much into it. It's hard to like put into words. It's a sense of pride, I really, really, really enjoy the film community around here, and everybody's so supportive of each other, no matter what they're doing. And oh man, I'm proud to be a part of it. That's the best. It's so hard to put into words. It's not just budding. It's exploding, and it's such a good time to get into it.
Beautiful. There's something about seeing a place in your hometown in a movie, or seeing it on screen.
Oh yeah.
Or for example, I've got some friends in a band who shot a music video in the garage at the place I used to work, and it was amazing. It was like, oh my God, I've been there. That's awesome. It's somewhere I actually recognize. It's not this nameless place in California, or it's not some random street in London. It's Toledo.
Yeah.
And it's on screen, and people can see it, and you can live it a little bit easier because it's actually it's a living, breathing, moving thing there.
Yeah, you're like, hey, that's a high level bridge. I know where that's at. I know where that park is.
That's my Uncle Mike's car. Look at that. Besides the video stuff, you said you do a lot of audio stuff too.
Yes.
And you've been doing that for longer, it sounds like.
Yeah.
What kind of audio stuff do you work on?
Well, mainly film audio, and I score and compose my own music too. So I've been doing music since I was 16 years old. So I've been in and out of studio work and stuff like that. But it was like a passion, I started at 16 years old, and music grew and loved. I grew up listening to Jimi Hendrix and stuff with my dad, and it just kind of grew onto me. And so after I learned how to do, all the other side of music, I was like, okay, I'm going to start learning the studio side of things, and I'm going to start learning how to, record and do audio and how to actually really do this, because I really enjoy this. Well, I had some bands fail and stuff, and I came back to it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to do a different way, because I can't be on tour because I have kids now. I can't just, I'm not Def Leppard or something, I can't just go out and tour for 50 weeks. It's impossible. I was like, I have to find a new way to do this. Maybe I can do something with online, because online started exploding by then, and I was like, okay, maybe not. Then I started learning more about doing film work and voiceover work and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, this is something I can actually do this. This is something I can really get to. And I was like, well, I know how to do this. I got with the local film community people, and I met a couple people randomly here and there. And I was like, I'm going to do some on-set audio, So you buy a boom pole and you get some shotgun microphones, and you're like, I like this, this is actually pretty cool. This ain't so bad. And I'm like one of the only people here that does this, by the way. I don't know why, but it's actually really fun. And you don't have to sit there and worry about framing. You just have to worry about capturing voices and, atmospheric sounds. So yeah, that's kind of how that kind of goes.
And then you realize how many people are looking for assistance in doing audio work. And
Yeah. There's actually, I'm working on some Foley sounds right now for another filmmaker, Anthony Wright. And that's been really fun process on working with his film on that, because I was on set for some of the scenes. And I had a lot of fun with him. He's a really good dude.
I'll have to look into him and try to, see a little bit more about what he's doing.
Yeah.
So anyone who might be interested in following along on your creative journey or checking out more of what you do, is there anywhere people can find out more information about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, and I have a link tree too, but that links to everything. But you can find me on Facebook under Silver Lining Audio, and that's for all the audio work I do and everything else like that. And then under my video work, it's Haunted Wonderland Productions. And that's where like all my film stuff and my film discography is. You can find that all on Facebook, and everything links to Instagram and everything else as well.
Okay, beautiful. We'll have to check it out. And I do encourage anybody listening to check out what Brian's doing. I really appreciate your time talking. This has been an amazing conversation. It's been great to catch up with you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. This has been today's episode of Proud to Be of Rust and Glass. Brian and others in his field are working hard to prove that you don't have to move across the world to Hollywood or to London to make great films. You can do it right here in Toledo. And why not? We have an incredible story of grit and determination to tell, and we should welcome and celebrate any medium used to tell it. I am your host and producer, Curtis Dieter. Our executive producer is Chris Pfeiffer. If you want to join the conversation, check us out at wgte.org/Rust and Glass. Until next time, thanks for listening. Now, go forth and create.
WGTE. Voices around us.
WGTE is supported in part by the American Rescue Plan Act funds allocated by the City of Toledo and the Lucas County Commissioners and administered by the Arts Commission.